Welcome, fellow voyagers. We are currently on the Majestic Princess taking our New Year's cruise. And today we saw the CDC headlines that warned everybody, don't cruise. Well, we did get a little bit nervous. Alrighty, so the headlines that we saw today on Twitter show ABC's News tweeted that the CDC states there's an increased number of cases among passengers and crew and advises against cruise travel regardless of vaccination status, and that the CDC raised the health notice from level 3 to the highest level 4. Then, further down, we see the Huffington Post post the headline that the CDC says more than 90 ships under investigation and observation. The next one, as you can see, will show that a local station, ABC, Chicago, decides that they're going to just post, the CDC warns to avoid all cruise ship travel. Well, those headlines made us a bit nervous. So we started to do research and watch some videos from fellow YouTubers Don Family's Vacation and Lalita Loca's channel, and we did our own research, and we don't want to share with you our findings to help you stay informed and make your own decision on ship safety. I think a good place to start is to understand how the CDC decides to investigate a ship. So the CDC is broken down and categorizes cruise ship COVID status using 5 different categories. You'll see that the gray is completely unknown. They don't know anything about what's going on the ship. Green, there's no cases to report. And orange, I do think it's a bit weird that orange is below yellow when yellow and red make orange, but anyways, I didn't create the color chart. But the orange is below the threshold for investigation, and you have yellow, which is they're at the threshold for investigation or above it, and red, which no ships are red or have been red even since the cruising has started, that red is they're not working with the CDC, or the sustained transmission of COVID-19 is so bad that the cases are going to overwhelm the onboard medical centers. Once again, no ship has ever been red since the start of cruising again back in June. What is the threshold? Well, the threshold set by the CDC says that only 0.1% or more of passengers need to test positive. And they give an example of a 6,500 passenger ship. Only 7 passengers need to test positive. 7 passengers, that's just very low. And the most unusual number, and that I find very, very unusual, is that only 1 crew member needs to test positive. So what this means on the ship that we're currently on, right? We're on the Majestic Princess, and that would be 1 out of 1,346 crew. And that percentage is 0.0007. And the ship can hold 3,560 passengers. So the 0.1% threshold that they have means that only 4 passengers need to test positive. One way to relate this would be, as I saw from Don's Family Vacation, he said, imagine if the CDC applies the same rule to the local businesses in your city, right? And all your city, if only 1 employee tested positive for COVID in, say, your grocery store, in the local restaurants, do you think the CDC would investigate them? Probably not. They wouldn't have time, right? So it's kind of weird that they're enforcing such strict rules on the cruise lines. Let me tell you our thoughts on how we feel about cruising, since we are on cruise ships. Well, but before I tell you our thoughts, I want to invite you to hit that subscribe button with the bell notification turned on so that you don't miss out on any of our upcoming cruise news. It helps the channel out and doesn't cost you a dime. Well, let's get to our thoughts. Well, and we've been cruising for a while, and we did miss the cruising, and we understood why we couldn't cruise for 2020 and beginning of 2021. But currently, we actually feel safer on board than we do on land. let's see. So the cruise lines require 100% vaccination on board, right? Even kids now, unless you're 2 years or younger. But your local restaurants don't require that when you go and you sit down at the restaurant or the pizza place or the bar or lounge that you're going to, even your grocery store. Your grocery store doesn't even require any vaccination statuses, let alone the mask requirements. You go to the grocery store, and if people don't want to wear the masks, yet the grocery store wants them to, but they're not going to go out and tell them, no, you can't come on into our restaurant or into our grocery store because you're not wearing a mask. They're not going to want all the bad hype. But on the cruise ships, they require masks. All the staff is wearing masks all day long. They wear the N95 mask all day. And honestly, we actually say thank you to them a lot because that's hard, right? We get to wear the nice cloth masks and be a little bit more relaxed and comfortable, where they're so much stricter. The other thing is on board is the ventilation system. It is the same kind of ventilation system that they put into the cruise ships, in most cruise ships, not necessarily every cruise ship, but they're actually recycling the air a lot faster than your local restaurants and grocery stores. Here, they're also wiping down everything, all the tables, all the handrails, which that doesn't happen, once again, at your grocery store. You don't see them wiping down the counter when you're putting your groceries on, right? Between every customer and every guest. No, but they do that here. They wipe down the chairs after you get up from the buffet and sit and your table. They wipe everything down, the sugar, the salt shakers, everything gets sanitized. That doesn't happen locally, right? The other thing is that there's constant testing, right? To be able to come on board ship, you have to be tested at least, and this is the CDC's guidelines, that you have to be tested no more than 48 hours before embarking on the cruise. And they literally make sure that everybody gets tested. You have to show them your records of getting tested. And depending on the size of the length of the cruise, there's also testing during the cruise. I remember that on our cruise 2 months ago when we went through the Panama Canal, it was a 15-day cruise. 3 to 4 days, I think it was 3 or 4 days after we got on board, we were all tested. And then 1 week later, we were all tested again. The other thing is that the cruise ships limit capacities. They're not having full ships. So like I said before, that this cruise can hold 3,560 passengers. But right now we're running at roughly around 2,100 passengers, right? So just a little bit over 50%. Other places don't do that. Your office doesn't shut down or your work doesn't shut down and say, oh, we're only gonna, do half our business. No, but the cruise lines do because they're being safe. The airlines now are filling up every seat, and the CDC doesn't say that they should cut everything down. What would be safer? But so one thing we have to say is that just look at the statistics, the full statistics, and not just flashy numbers in the headlines, right? So consider this. Look at the positivity rate of the cruise lines and compare it to your local city, your local states. Maybe you can't because your city doesn't test and maybe your city doesn't report. A lot of the high rate cities don't want to report the numbers because they don't look that great. For example, Royal Caribbean, I just saw an article when we were doing the research on Cruise Hive, I think it was Cruise Hive, that Royal Caribbean Group, and Royal Caribbean Group encompasses Royal Caribbean International Cruise Line, Celebrity Cruises, and Silver Seas. They have a 0.02 positivity rate since June. They've had over 1.1 million guests on board since June, all their cruising time, all three lines, and only 1,745 guests have tested positive. Once again, that's only a 0.02%. So some headlines will just run with the number of 1,745, and that sounds large. But if you look at the actual rate and time, the 0.02% since June is a lot lower than anywhere on land. For example, California in the last 2 months has a 12.9 positivity rate. And that is just in the people who are tested versus the 100% tested on the ship, right? The state of California doesn't require everyone to get tested daily, monthly, weekly so they can report true numbers. Just 12.9% positivity rate of the people who have tested. Kind of in conclusion that the CDC is enforcing a much stricter rules on the cruise line than in any other industry. Once again, look at the airlines. They're able to go full capacity. There's no testing requirements for you to fly. And it's pretty unfair to the cruise line industry and everyone that relies on the cruise industry. Well, I'm feeling more comfortable, and tonight is formal night. It's New Year's Eve. I gotta go get shaved. Be safe out there, everybody, and have a happy new year.